G'day North Queensland, and for this case possibly Australia, because this is a pretty big issue we've got here. Today we're going to talk about the lovely red ensign and exactly what's going on. There's been a hell of a lot of misconception, perhaps, distortions of truth, whether people are doing it intentionally or they've just been educated inappropriately. There's something to be seen. But today I'm here with Collet from the House of Jeffs.
That's me.
And she's done some amazing work, and as you can see from the plethora of research and evidence we have here of the existence of said red ensign.
Yep.
Wow.
We've got the evidence.
So, where does this all begin?
Well, in 1901, the foundation of this federal red ensign, where it was brought to us through a competition of the people entering to put a flag and a seal for the new constitution. So
1901 was when Australia federated, so
yes.
all state borders were dissolved.
That's
and
right.
Pushed 12 miles out to sea, as I understand it. And that's
yes.
what, you know, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But at this point of federation, we've created the first Australian flag.
Yeah, well, the Commonwealth of Australia.
Commonwealth of Australia flag,
Yes.
as stated in the Constitution.
As stated in the Constitution that was proclaimed and gazetted, yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you said, there was a big competition, was it some 30,000?
30,000 entries for this, yes. And of that 30,000 entries, 5 were closely looked at, and this one was the one that won.
This one?
This one, yeah. This one.
At that point, it obviously had to go off to England as a part of the Commonwealth.
Yes, as part
which
of...
is
yes.
important to remember. You know, there is, you know, although federated, we are still part of the Commonwealth. 2 years later, she returns.
Yes, yes, and that's officially our flag. Our flag, and importantly, our land flag. Unlike all the other flags that are maritime or admiralty, they can only be flown at sea and represents the vessels.
So in 1903, when that approval process is complete from said Commonwealth,
yes.
King Edward, was it?
Edward the Seventh, yes,
King
he approved
Edward
it.
Comes back, says that she's all good, you can go along with that, but...
We need to put some for maritime because we have to be represented on the sea as well.
Okay, so what's the difference between the maritime and the land flag?
Well, the size of the flag, so we're a 2 to 3, 3 to 2 ratio for the land, and a 1 to 2 ratio for the Admiralty Maritime. Also, the stars are different. So although we still had both 6-pointed star under the Union Jack, the Southern Cross was different. The Southern Cross was lined up, whereas here you can see it's off centre. And it goes from the brightest star 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 to the lowest, whereas on the others it didn't. It went 7 and then 1, 5, yeah. So it was different.
So they were all 7 with the exception of the small star?
Small was 5, yeah, and that was out at sea.
And is there a significance to the points on the stars?
Yes, well, in these ones, the brightness of the stars that we see, that we look from the land. So as we would look at the Southern Cross from the red earth, the red dirt, representing that red duster, we would see those looking like that on an angle. Whereas at sea, you're moving all the time. They've just straightened those, one top and one bottom. Yeah, so there.
So moving along, we've established 2 different red ensign flags, one land, one sea. We move into the Treaty of Hague in 1907.
Yes.
What is the Treaty of Hague?
Well, it was, because we were part of the Commonwealth, there was wars passed that debts had to be paid. And those debts had to be paid, and they were thrown over to us, to the Commonwealth. And in The Hague, when they weren't paid, we bore the burden of that. We were put into what they call a usufruct.
All right, and what does that mean?
Usufruct means they can use the fruits of the land, so your forestry, your fisheries, your minerals. They can also use the fruits of your labour.
So effectively enslaving the people in a sense?
To pay debts, correct.
Right. And which debts are we paying?
We're paying debts from past wars. So because we're part of the monarch went into wars with different countries like the Americans, where they did the civil wars and they had the War of Independence. both of those, both the Americans and the English, were in debt to the banksters. Yeah, we didn't know them as banksters then, but they were in debt because they financed both sides of the war.
Yep.
When that debt didn't get paid, it has to go to a treaty for it to be worked out. How are you going to pay for this? Just like any bill that you don't pay,
Yep.
it goes to a court and it gets decided who and how that gets paid. And so our usufruct was put into usufruct. So that had to be delivered to us in 1907. That was handed to the military hand, which was the America's White Fleet. And they went around the world delivering these to people that were into this debt to pay back the way the Hague had described. There was 8 treaties in all, but the most important was the one War on Land, because it tells them how to conduct themselves while in war on land.
And the Americas are, the enforcers, and they've come into our shore, Sydney, I believe.
Yes, into Sydney Harbour.
Guns pointed, which
guns
is always a
pointed
sign of friendliness.
Yes.
We
were being friendly.
Hi, how you going?
We were being friendly because we were all good little people waving American flags, not knowing that what was being delivered.
The USA fleet welcome to Australia.
Yes.
With guns drawn.
With the guns drawn, yes.
Here's the image. You can see it for yourself. Make your own mind up what that means. I've got a very interesting artistic interpretation of that one.
And you can probably interpret a lot by that picture.
Yeah. So we're basically told at this point, pay your debts.
Yes.
Right. So how do we proceed with paying those debts?
Well, we go into administration. So, like we said in 1908, there was a military order sent to the people running the country at the time, so our parliamentarians, and it was telling them that they needed to add an extra star to this 6-pointed star that sits under the Union Jack to include the territories. Now that sounds quite harmless, maybe, but territories, if you think of something marking its territory, that's exactly what they were doing. So we have our territories. We've got the Northern Territories that's got Pine Gap that was sold for a peppercorn. And we've got added territories now where we've got Jarvis Bay, which is our naval base. We've got Canberra, which is a territory. And on Capitol Hill we have that Parliament sitting there.
The alleged seat of government.
Yes, the alleged seat of government.
In a
flying
territory.
a blue territorial flag.
Yeah, which we'll come to.
Yes. And then in 1910, it all became official. Because like anything, the paperwork comes in and then it comes out the other end saying it's official. The 26th of January 1910, we officially were being administered. We were occupied and we were working under treaties, 8 of them. Anyone can look up those treaties, go to the Australian Treaty series, look at 1910, and it will show you 8 treaties, and particularly the one on war on land, because it explains how they can conduct war on land.
So here we are, 1910, Australia Day is created, and we're all sort of led to believe that it's this wonderful foundation sort of day. We've got a whole bunch of other people who are running around calling it Invasion Day, and perhaps they're not too far from the truth in a sense, because it's not the manner in which we've all been led to believe.
No.
So who exactly has invaded? Well, I mean, the Americans have obviously come in guns drawn.
Yes.
But who sent them?
Well, for those people out there that's been down the rabbit holes...
A rabbit hole warning.
A rabbit hole warning. We've got their Holy Trinity. We've got Washington, D.C., which is the military armed force, which is in British Columbia. That's the White House there, and therefore the command. And then we've got that magic mile of London City, which is run by different police than outside of that 1 mile. And that's the financial aspect. Then we've got the Vatican City, which we know takes all our souls into it, and that's their Holy Trinity. So one heavy hand of the...
You could say mind, body and soul.
Mind, body and soul, yes. Yeah. And they sent their military arm to deliver this treaty to us, yes. Yeah, these treaties. Although in 1910...
Which is the point of treaty. which we're led to believe is Australia Day, but we'll probably call it,
Invasion
Day,
Invasion.
As much as the leftists are like jumping up and down going, yes, I knew I was right, but you were still wrong because you got your facts wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we moved to 1940.
Yes.
We join
World War One,
and we have again a plethora of images showing
our flag.
this red ensign being flown alongside our troops.
Yes.
So it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. We have historical evidence. Of this. As we proceed through the war ends 1917, and again we come to more treaties.
Yes.
During that treaty, I believe, there is also a significant change in Australia Day at this point.
It is, yes, because this lady who had sons that were in the war and relatives in the war decided to ask put it to the newspapers that we should raise money for the wounded, for the soldiers that didn't come back to help the families. So from that point on, every last Friday of July, every year, they were making matchboxes with the different things on, badges, and selling these to help the people that came back from the war. And so that was the official Australia Day.
So it was kind of a bit of an Anzac Day almost.
Well, it was in a way. Yeah, it was in a way.
I guess maybe not Anzac. It was definitely an Australia thing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with any white fleet or anything like that, or it was more to help the people that lived in the Commonwealth of Australia. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then we move in to the Treaty of Versailles.
Which is the end of the war. Yeah. That was a peace treaty. And it was signed, and we had a representative of Billy Hughes that was our representative for the Commonwealth of Australia. And he stood for the 62,000 lost souls that shed blood for this country. And he fought to get the part of New Guinea that was occupied by the Germans. So what they did at that peace treaty was divide up the occupied land that they'd taken. And Woodrow Wilson didn't think, because he was the American president, that why should he get all of that? He really wanted a bit of it and everyone should have a piece of it. But Billy Hughes stood there and said, well, as a point of where we could be invaded, that was important to us on our land, because Papua New Guinea is within our in the waters. So they drew a line around the waters of Papua New Guinea and introduced them into our country. And Billy Hughes said it's ours because of the 62,000 soldiers lost. And those 62,000 soldiers, although didn't seem many in number compared to other countries, percentage-wise, we had the greatest loss, because we were a very small country then with a small population. So 62,000 was a lot of, it's a big chunk of our population. And so they caved and they give him Papua New Guinea and put the waters in there. So Papua New Guinea came into our waters.
Is there any other significant point to the Treaty of Versailles that affects the flag?
That was recognised in international peace.
Right. So
that was a peace treaty, yes.
And as part of the, I believe,
we have evidence, yes, under the British Empire. Yes, we also have evidence in that same picture of the fact that New Zealand had a red flag, Canada had a red flag, South Africa had a red flag, the Commonwealth countries had a red flag. Yet Menzies tried to say it looked too communist, so we should use the blue.
Menzies comes in, we're moving into that, the Nazis are building their strengths, socialism is starting to take a hold. It's already got a stranglehold in Russia, and I believe a couple of other countries around Europe and whatnot. Dark days are upon us because of socialism, accepted. And Menzies says, what about our flag?
Yeah, he said, first he said we should go to war.
Right.
And unfortunately, because in that peace treaty we became a nationhood, under international law, under peace, we should have stood up and said no.
So as a part of that treaty, we accepted peace and we're not going to go starting a war.
Yeah, we shouldn't have had to. We could have. But at the time, we dropped the ball and we went to war. So we broke that peace treaty and we went to war. And he said that flag looked too communist because they already had their little blue flag sitting in the background. and he was trying to push in the blue flag.
Yeah, and this is where we do our Tarantino moment and refer back to our previous mention of said blue flag that's been set as a government flag from the early days of the creation.
With the
flag.
7 points for a treaties that is clearly not on there in World War I and World War II. So it was sitting, lying there, waiting.
Right. So during World War II, we're still flying red flag.
Yep.
But our Prime Minister at the time is starting to fly the blue flag.
Well, yes, they've got that. The government's got that, yes. But it wasn't official, because under everything, the Flag Acts, it has to be official. It has to go through the Commonwealth, through the monarch, and it has to be put into the Flag Acts. It was all done around 1953, 54 officially in the Flag Acts, all around the time of the coronation when the crown changed, the flag changed.
World War II's done. We've fought another world war with this flag. So when we look at our Anzac memorials, what flag should we really
Be flying?
That's
Exactly.
I'll leave that to you, Mob, to figure out.
Yes.
But these are the facts. In 1953, we have the coronation of Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, where she had 2 crowns that day, which is not unusual with the royals, because they were originally Catholic before Henry VIII. Until then, now she's the head of the Church of England, so we need an imperial crown. And our soldiers had the imperial crown. They wore the imperial badge. The rising sun and the imperial crown was in there. All of that changed in 53. We lost it off our police officers.
Well, we lost it all right.
We lost it. What good timing. What good time. But let's not forget, it's not lost, because we haven't forgotten.
That's right.
So in 53, we changed the crown, we changed the seal, we changed the flag, we changed the name of the forces. They were the Imperial Forces. Now they're the Australian Defence Force. The police wear the Roman crown and the Roman wreath. And in Queensland, we even have the Maltese Cross, which the country of Malta is Catholic. So how clear can we be that we're not Protestant or Protestant like in our Constitution? We should, in our Constitution, it states we are under Almighty God, the KGV, the authorised KGV 1611 Bible. It's in our shrine of remembrance, and yet we're under a Catholic regime right now.
So over a period of 70 years, we've basically had history rewritten. That kind of leaves us in a very interesting predicament, and hopefully that helps people at home understand the true value of the flag that fell down. And when we're flying that flag, it's not to try and symbolise communism, as some mainstream media outlets have suggested. Wow, that's just regurgitating what Menzies said. Which
it
was
is
propaganda back then.
It is. But when they see the Commonwealth flags of the time, where they were all red, it doesn't stand up. We had 4 Commonwealth flags with red, and 2, Russian and China that were red. I think we outnumbered them. So it didn't make sense at all. It's just that their flag was blue, and they had a plan to introduce it, all part of the plan.
We could probably dive down further rabbit holes at this point, but we should probably just sort of leave it here for now. Hope this has helped everybody understand a little bit more about the red ensign, that it does seem through evidence here to be the true flag of Australia, and the blue flag is the government flag. So yeah. And
we've got to stop calling it Australia. We've got to call ourselves the Commonwealth of Australia. As much as you can clearly see here in 53 that the monarchs sort of turned their back on us. And I can add to in 57 at her first, Christmas greetings to the public via black and white television, she stated clearly that she cannot assist us in war, she cannot lead us into war, and she cannot lead us through the courts into law. So clearly turned their back on us.
Definitely. And again, further cemented in 73 with what Gough Whitlam did.
Yes.
Creating this fictitious corporate version, and
Yes.
Here we are about to dive. We're standing at the edge of a new rabbit hole, and I think if you're interested in that, you should definitely look for yourself. I know perhaps we might do another video at some point, explaining exactly what happened in 1973, and God,
where we are now,
the only Prime Minister to be forcibly removed by the Governor General.
Yes, yes.
I think we'd all love to see some more.
May I say, God save the Queen, because nothing can save the Governor General, was his speech.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should leave it here for today. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one last thing? Just remember, this is the only land flag. All the other flags that they're waving around are Admiralty, and they're putting you back at sea. And if you've dealt down that rabbit hole, you don't want to be at sea, because you're drowning.
Yeah. Dead entity.
Dead entity.
Habitus diminutum maxima.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's some lovely terms for you to look up and, leave you hanging on the edge of the seat. What's he saying? What does that mean? Look it up, find out.
Look it up. Do some research.
Exactly, and you've done some amazing web research, and so have a lot of other people to bring us this information, and thank you.
Well, most of this is people's collections from their homes and from their families that's been passed down, so thank you to those people that save stuff so that they can change our history however they like, but we've got the evidence to prove it wrong.
Oh, they've certainly been very sloppy at cleaning up the mess, haven't they? So, they obviously, we know 1984 has become a bit of an instruction manual as far as, literature goes. They obviously need to do a little bit more reading on exactly how they're getting past, because they've left so many breadcrumbs all over the place. It's a bit messy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today. And here we are, raising the red
and turn it the right way.
Again, we should probably turn it upside down because we are in distress.
No, we want them in distress. We should turn
the blue one upside down.
We're not in distress at all.
So here we are. This is the flag. This is what we've explained. This is what it means. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed our independent media coverage of this and various other things, please do jump into the descriptions. Have a look. There is a lovely donate button that will help keep beer in my hands, Vegemite on my toast, and please click the little rumble buttons, the like buttons. There's little coin buttons and whatnot with BitChute, all these things, they will help and contribute. Please share it around. And Struth, if you find this inspiring, do a little bit of research and
it's out there. Give
me a shout out. Say, hey, look, this is what I found. Can you help spread the word? Yes, I will. I'll tell you right now, if you've done some good research like we've got here, definitely let us know. Thank you very much for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
That's all right. Thank you.